That day the city throbbed, a frantic ecosystem of ambition and noise trapped beneath the indifferent gaze of its financial district skyscrapers. The air outside hung thick with the exhaust fumes and the relentless symphony of car horns, impatient shouts, and the hurried cadence of 1,000 footsteps on pavement. Yet to pass through the imposing, burnished walnut doors of Argentum Premier Bank, each slab weighing perhaps half a ton, adorned with heavy polished brass handles, cool to the touch, was to enter another dimension entirely. The city's chaotic energy didn't just stop, it was actively repelled, nullified by an engineered tranquility. The air inside was noticeably cooler, meticulously filtered, carrying the subtle, almost subliminal scent of expensive wood polish, ozone from the state-of-the-art ventilation, and perhaps the faintest ghost of the previous elite client's exclusive perfume. It was a silence that wasn't empty, but rather full, heavy with the unspoken weight of immense wealth and guarded secrets. The cavernous lobby unfolded like a modern cathedral dedicated to Mammon. Floors of gleaming, vein-cut Italian granite reflected the recessed lighting above, creating distorted mirror images. Walls soared, clad in vast, seamless panels of Calicut marble, its intricate gray and gold veining like frozen lightning against the pristine white. The sparse modern furniture, low-slung leather sofas, minimalist chrome and glass tables, was arranged with geometric precision, enhancing the sense of vast, imposing space. This wasn't merely a bank, it was a meticulously crafted stage for the performance of power and privilege. Into this carefully curated environment, Keanu Reeves entered, not with a bang, but almost like a phantom slipping through a crack in reality. His presence disrupted the calculated harmony. Arthur Pembroke, the senior security guard stationed just inside the entrance, a man whose posture seemed carved from granite itself, his dark gray uniform possessing creases sharp enough to cut, registered the anomaly instantly. Pembroke prided himself on his ability to read people, a skill honed over 2 decades of guarding this portal to the ultra-rich. His internal checklist ticked through the usual signifiers: bespoke tailoring, handcrafted footwear, the subtle glint of a Patek Philippe. Keanu triggered none. The worn brown leather jacket, softened and molded by years of use, the faded blue jeans, comfortable rather than fashionable, the heavy motorcycle boots, practical and marked with the honest grime of the road. They screamed outsider. Pembroke's eyes, narrowed slightly, performed a swift, practiced scan, cataloging every detail he deemed out of place. His right hand twitched, hovering almost imperceptibly near the discreet radio clipped to his belt, a silent alert, a readiness for something. He made a mental note: unidentified male, mid-50s, non-conforming attire, proceeding towards main hall. Keanu felt the weight of that scrutiny, a familiar pressure he'd encountered countless times in places where appearance was mistaken for substance. He'd learned long ago not to react, but to observe. His gaze swept across the opulent lobby, taking in the cold grandeur, the almost aggressive display of wealth disguised as minimalist taste. He noted the way the light caught the marble, the hushed reverence in the air, the subtle tension beneath the polished surface. The soft, rhythmic scuff of his boot soles on the mirror-like floor seemed offensively loud in the engineered quiet, drawing fleeting, irritated glances. He continued his unhurried walk towards the main teller counters, a solitary figure moving against the current of expectation. Near the center of the hall, Ms. Eleanor Vance, the customer relations manager, her platinum blonde hair sculpted into an elaborate chignon, her smile professionally radiant but lacking genuine warmth, was concluding a conversation with a portly gentleman clutching a gleaming crocodile briefcase. "Rest assured, Mr. Sterling, the transfer will be seamless," she was saying, her voice dripping with cultivated deference. As Mr. Sterling nodded and turned towards the exit, Ms. Vance caught sight of Keanu approaching the counters. The professional smile faltered, then vanished, replaced by a flicker of distaste. Her nostrils flared slightly, almost involuntarily, as if detecting an unwelcome odor. Perhaps the faint scent of gasoline clinging to his jacket, or simply the aura of otherness disrupting her pristine domain. She offered Keanu nothing more than a fleeting, dismissive glance before turning sharply, her high heels clicking an assertive rhythm on the granite as she retreated towards her private office. In the designated waiting area, separated by a low-glass barrier, a few other clients lounged. One, a woman in a severe black suit, tapped impatiently on a high-end tablet. Another, a man with meticulously styled silver hair, examined his manicured nails with an air of profound boredom, his gaze flicking briefly towards Keanu before dismissing him as irrelevant scenery. Their low murmurs, though unintelligible, carried an unmistakable air of exclusivity and judgment. Who let that in? Must be lost. Keanu ignored them all, his focus on the destination, the most prominent counter at the far end, distinguished by its richer, darker mahogany and the brass nameplate identifying Mr. Edward Cromwell, senior client advisor. Cromwell embodied Argentum Premier. 30 years he'd sat behind this counter, witnessing fortunes made and lost, though rarely lost among his clients, privy to secrets that could shake industries. He saw himself not just as an employee, but as a pillar of the institution, a discerning gatekeeper ensuring the bank's rarefied atmosphere remained untainted. He was meticulously adjusting his perfectly dimpled silk tie when he finally looked up, interrupted from reviewing what looked like complex market data on his oversized screen. Beside Cromwell stood Amelia Carter, the intern. She looked young, intelligent, but palpably nervous, her shoulders slightly hunched as if bracing for impact. She was trying to absorb everything, keenly aware that this internship was a golden ticket, but equally aware of Cromwell's notoriously short temper and cutting remarks, especially towards those he deemed junior or unsuitable. She'd already witnessed him eviscerate a junior teller for a minor procedural error just that morning. Her gaze flickered towards Keanu with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension, sensing the impending friction. Cromwell's eyes, pale blue and slightly magnified by expensive rimless glasses, performed their swift, dismissive appraisal of Keanu. The judgment was instantaneous and absolute. Years of reinforcing his own biases had made the process automatic. He saw the clothes, the boots, the lack of obvious wealth signifiers, and categorized Keanu immediately. Lost, mistaken identity, or worse, attempting entry under false pretenses. He turned pointedly towards Amelia, deliberately pitching his voice to Carrie. "Observe carefully, Amelia," he instructed, a smug, pedagogical tone coating his words. "It's a lesson in situational awareness. Not everyone who walks through these doors understands the purpose of Argentum Premier. Standard services, bill payments, check cashing, small domestic transfers are efficiently handled at our more accessible downtown branches. We cater to a different echelon here." The implication was clear. This man is wasting our valuable time. He then swiveled his attention back to Keanu, his expression hardening into one of bored impatience. His voice was smooth but carried an edge of steel. "Yes. Can I help you with something? Or perhaps direct you elsewhere?" The unspoken, "you don't belong here," hung heavy in the air between them. Keanu met his gaze steadily, his own expression unreadable. The ambient noise of the bank seemed to fade, focusing attention on this small point of interaction. "I need some information," Keanu stated, his voice quiet but resonant, cutting through Cromwell's condescension, "regarding a substantial international funds transfer." Cromwell blinked, then a dry, incredulous chuckle escaped him. "Substantial?" he repeated, savoring the word with open mockery. "Sir," the sir was practically an insult. "With all due respect, our definition of substantial here operates on a slightly different scale. We routinely handle transfers in the 7, 8, even 9 figures. Such transactions naturally require specific account tiers, Premier Plus, Centurion Elite, Founder Circle, and necessitate maintaining a rather significant minimum liquid balance, well into 7 figures, just to maintain the account status." He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice conspiratorially, though still loud enough for Amelia to hear. "Perhaps the main city branch on 5th Avenue would be more appropriate for your needs." He gestured vaguely towards the entrance, clearly expecting Keanu to take the hint and leave. Amelia shifted uncomfortably, her gaze dropping to the polished counter. "My account is here," Keanu replied, the simple statement delivered with unwavering calm. It landed like a stone in the quiet bank. Cromwell's condescension solidified into outright disbelief and irritation. "Here? Are you quite certain?" he pressed, his voice laced with suspicion. He suspected a prank, or perhaps mental instability. "Your account number, please?" "If you have one." He was ready to punch in a fake number, get the inevitable invalid message, and have security escort the man out. Keanu didn't flinch. He reached slowly into the inner pocket of his well-worn leather jacket. The anticipation in the air thickened. Cromwell watched, a sneer playing on his lips. Amelia held her breath. Keanu's hand emerged not with a flimsy piece of plastic, but with something dark, solid, and unexpected. He placed it gently on the gleaming mahogany counter. It was a card made of a matte black, heavy-gauge metal, possibly titanium or a similar alloy. It bore no logos, no bank name, no holographic doves or platinum sheen. Its only distinguishing feature was an almost invisible, laser-etched geometric pattern and Keanu's name, subtly engraved in a minimalist font. Its understated, almost severe elegance was a stark contrast to the ostentatious gold and platinum cards Cromwell handled daily. The card had a tangible weight, a density that spoke of substance rather than flash. It made a soft, definitive clink as it settled on the wood. Cromwell stared at the object as if it were an alien artifact. He hesitated, then picked it up gingerly between his thumb and forefinger, feeling its unexpected heft and cool, smooth surface. "What in blazes is this?" he muttered, frowning. "I've been here 30 years, handled accounts for royalty and tech billionaires. I've never encountered anything like this." He held it up to the light, squinting. "Is this legitimate? Some kind of new security measure I wasn't briefed on? Or is it a fake?" "I doubt it's fake," Keanu said evenly. "Why don't you check?" With an exaggerated sigh of forbearance, Cromwell turned back to his terminal, shaking his head slightly for Amelia's benefit. "All right, let's see if the system recognizes this unique artifact," he murmured sarcastically. He slid the heavy card into the reader slot. It seated with a satisfyingly solid click, unlike the flimsy plastic he was used to. He typed rapidly, his fingers flying across the keyboard with practiced ease, initiating the account lookup sequence. He watched the screen with an air of smug expectation, fully anticipating the "account not found" or "invalid card error" message that would allow him to finally dismiss this nuisance. What appeared on the screen instead wiped the smugness from his face as if slapped away. His confident posture collapsed. The transformation was horrifyingly swift. Utter disbelief widened his eyes, pupils dilating. The blood drained from his face, leaving his skin a sickly, grayish white. A moment later, a dark flush crept up his neck, staining his cheeks before receding again, leaving him looking like a marble statue. Tiny beads of sweat popped out across his forehead and upper lip. His breathing became audible, shallow and ragged. His hands, hovering over the keyboard, began to shake violently. He tried to speak, but only a dry, croaking sound emerged from his constricted throat. He stared, transfixed, at the screen. It wasn't just the name, Keanu C. Reeves, displayed in stark, official font. It wasn't just the small, embedded photo that, despite its slightly grainy quality, was undeniably the man standing before him. It was the account designation, Argentum Obsidian Tier, Alpha Access. A classification Cromwell had only heard whispered about, reserved for the bank's most foundational and influential clients. And beneath it, the balance. A string of numbers so long, punctuated by so many commas, that his brain simply refused to process the magnitude. It wasn't millions. It was an astronomical figure, an amount that could probably buy the entire bank branch, maybe the building itself. Amelia watched her supervisor's meltdown with growing alarm. She'd seen him be angry, dismissive, even cruel, but never like this, never terrified. She instinctively took a half step back. The unnatural stillness around the counter had, by now, attracted attention. Miss Evelyn Hayes, the general manager, possessed an almost preternatural awareness of the bank's atmosphere, Sensing the disruption from her glass-walled office overlooking the main floor, she emerged, her stride purposeful, her expression radiating controlled authority. She moved like a shark sensing blood in the water. "Edward?" Her voice cut through the tense silence, sharp and demanding. "What is the meaning of this delay? Is there an issue?" Cromwell flinched violently at her voice, spinning around so quickly he nearly lost his balance. "Ms. Hayes, no issue. Just verifying an unusual transaction protocol." His stammering and visible panic told Hayes everything she needed to know even before she reached the counter. "Step aside, Edward," she ordered, her voice dropping to a dangerously quiet level. She didn't wait for him to comply, deftly maneuvering past his trembling form to view the monitor herself. For a fraction of a second, her legendary composure cracked. Her eyes widened almost imperceptibly, her lips parting in a silent gasp as she absorbed the information on the screen. The name, the tier, the balance. But decades of navigating corporate minefields allowed her to regain control almost instantly. The calculation was swift. Colossal client, colossal blunder, potential PR catastrophe. Her professional mask slammed back into place, albeit slightly askew. She turned to Keanu, her entire demeanor shifting with whiplash speed. A wide, dazzlingly white, and utterly artificial smile spread across her face. "Mr. Reeves, my deepest apologies. What an incredible honor to have you visit us today. I am Evelyn Hayes, the general manager." She extended a perfectly manicured hand, which Keanu politely ignored. "Please, you must forgive Edward's oversight. He's clearly overwhelmed today. It's unconscionable that we didn't recognize you immediately. Allow me to personally escort you to our private Obsidian lounge. We can handle everything there, with absolute privacy and efficiency. May I offer you an espresso? Pellegrino? Perhaps something stronger?" Her voice was now a cascade of frantic cordiality, the earlier ice replaced by a desperate, cloying warmth. Keanu regarded her performance with the same unnerving calm. His gaze shifted briefly from her forced smile back to the utterly broken figure of Cromwell, who now seemed physically smaller, crushed by the weight of his mistake and Keanu's quiet presence. Then Keanu spoke again. His voice remained low, yet it carried with remarkable clarity in the suddenly silent, marble-clad space. Every other customer, every nearby employee, was now shamelessly eavesdropping. "Ms. Hayes," he began, pausing for effect, "a hypothetical question for you. If I had walked in here today wearing a $10,000 bespoke suit, a Swiss chronometer, and shoes that cost more than Mr. Cromwell's monthly salary, would his initial reaction have been different?" The brilliant smile on Hayes's face didn't just freeze. It seemed to shatter like thin ice. The color drained from her face now. She opened her mouth, then closed it, utterly wrong-footed. Cromwell flinched as if struck, bowing his head so low his chin nearly touched his chest, his ears burning crimson. Amelia looked down, feeling a strange mix of vindication and acute embarrassment for everyone involved. Keanu let the silence stretch for a beat before continuing, his voice still level, devoid of anger, yet imbued with a profound weight. "A person's value isn't determined by their bank balance or the label inside their jacket. Respect isn't a commodity to be dispensed based on perceived net worth. It's a fundamental human right. An institution like Argentum Premier, built on reputation and trust, should understand that principle above all others." His gaze returned, one last time, to the devastated Cromwell. "Thank you for offering to assist with the transfer," he said, the politeness somehow more cutting than any overt anger could have been. "But I find I no longer require your services. I believe I'll explore other banking options." With deliberate slowness, he reached out and retrieved the heavy, matte black card from the counter, sliding it smoothly back into his jacket pocket. He gave Ms. Hayes a brief, courteous, yet unmistakably final nod. He turned to leave but paused again, his eyes finding Amelia's. He held her gaze for just a moment, offering a slight, almost imperceptible nod. It wasn't pity, but acknowledgement. It recognized her silent discomfort, her powerless dissent, and perhaps offered a flicker of encouragement. For Amelia, that tiny gesture resonated more profoundly than anything else that had happened, sparking a complex ember of hope and resolve within her. Then, with the same unhurried, steady pace with which he had arrived, Keanu Reeves walked towards the massive walnut doors. He didn't look back. He left behind a tableau of frozen shock, a panicked general manager already calculating damage control, a ruined senior advisor facing professional annihilation, and a lobby full of wealthy clients and bank employees stunned into absolute silence, having just witnessed a masterclass in quiet dignity and the brutal consequences of judging a book by its very worn cover. The instant the heavy doors whispered shut, sealing off the outside world once more, Ms. Hayes's carefully constructed facade disintegrated completely. Her face became a mask of cold fury. She rounded on Cromwell, her voice a low, venomous snarl. "My office. Now!" Cromwell, looking like a condemned man, stumbled numbly after her toward the private corridors, his career flashing before his eyes. Amelia fought back tears, a confusing storm of emotions swirling inside her. Relief, fear, a strange sense of admiration, and disgust. The whispers in the lobby erupted anew, louder now, buzzing with the incredible story they would all be dining out on for weeks. The young man with the phone was already furiously typing a caption for his stealthily recorded video, hitting upload before Hayes and Cromwell had even disappeared from view. Hashtags like "What could Keanu bank shaming," "Your Gargenum fail," and "Don't judge a book" began to trend almost immediately. The digital echo of the encounter was just beginning, promising a public relations nightmare for Argentum Premier. Inside the bank, the only sound was the faint hum of the ventilation system, circulating the suddenly heavy air within the cold, impassive marble walls, which now held the echo of a lesson delivered, and likely never to be forgotten.